loneliness is on the rise here. I don't want my kids to have that.
Yeah.
I want them to be surrounded by cousins, friends, grandparents, uncles, aunts, all that stuff. And the way we do it is we're affectionate. That's how we are. We're transparent. I remember my grandma, bless her heart, when we go to Albania, my sister was like 17, 18. Oh, Dorella, you've gained some weight, but like in Albanian. And she's like, why is she? I'm like, that's a good thing where they come from. You know what I mean?
What's up, dads? This is the Rise and Dad podcast, a podcast in perspective on life as a dad from dads who are intentional about their fatherhood. I'm your host, Kevin Delro, and I'm so happy to be here today because we have another awesome guest for you. He works in software sales. He's a dad to 2 kids, and he's also a high school soccer coach. He is going to share his perspective on raising kids in America, building community, and we're probably going to touch a little bit about co-sleeping. So I wanted to welcome Dan to the pod. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Kev. I'm excited to be here, discuss being a dad and this transition, and have a great time, man.
Yeah, you and I are friends, and we've hung out, our families have hung out, and I feel like we've had a lot of these conversations, and it's part of why I started this pod, was I've had these conversations with dads like you, and we're like, we should put this somewhere. We should do something with it, so.
It's a great idea. I'm glad you did it when you were telling me. I think the world, it'd be great for them to know what that transition is like. And we've had a ton of these conversations.
I know.
So
yeah,
I'm excited to jump into this.
Over drinks even. Yeah. They've gone long into the night too. Why don't you go ahead and give everyone your dad stats?
All right. So I got 2 kids, a girl and a boy. Sofia is 5.5 years old. Kroi, Kroi, is 2.5. And then I have a beautiful wife, Yola. We've been together for 9 years, and it's awesome. Our kids, Sofia just started kindergarten this year.
Yeah.
She's early, so she didn't turn 5 till September. And Kroi is 2.5 and a rebel without a cause.
Oh, man. Yeah.
He's just a machine right now, and very attached to me.
Yeah.
Very attached to me. Like
I
thought it'd be my wife, but he is really super attached to me. And we just went through potty training, which has been awesome because it took a lot longer than Sofia.
Yeah, that's great. I love that he's a rebel without a cause. Funny story about that because Dan's daughter and my daughter are really great friends, and they play really well together. And I told Rui, my daughter, that she was going to come over tomorrow. We're going to have an event at our house. And what's funny, you mentioned Kroi being a rebel without a cause, and the first thing that Rui said was, "Is she bringing her brother?" And she goes, "I don't want her brother to come." Yeah, it's
he's getting nicer, but definitely likes to cause trouble.
Yeah. So let's get into it. So tell me about when you first found out you were going to become a dad. What was that preparation like?
I'm getting the same feelings now, to be honest with you. I was shaking. That's what I remember. It was like this weird, jittery excitement that I can't really explain. But my wife, she is amazing, and she just always has an inkling about what's happening and stuff. And it was like January, and she's, oh no, my period is late.
Yeah.
And I didn't think too much of it. We were just start trying it. We weren't doing any like calendars or anything like that. So anyway, she comes home from work, she picks up a test thing and does it at work, and then comes home, and it was like 3 o'clock, 3:30. And she's, hey, I was like, hey. She's like, guess what? I'm like, what's up? And I wasn't even thinking, I don't know what type of headspace I was on, maybe it was work or whatever. She's, we're pregnant. I was like, what? I'm like literally getting the same thing. I was like shaking. I'm like, what? Are you serious? And she's, and I just like, I'm doing the same thing. I just gave her like a big hug.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know, the most amazing feeling I've ever had until Sofia was born. Because that was a different experience together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was so happy. We couldn't wait to text our parents.
Yeah.
So I just had like this weird jittery feeling for like the next 2 days. I was just super excited.
Just like jubilation.
Oh my God, it was amazing.
And what about during the prep period? You got 9 months to prepare.
Yeah.
What was your mindset like there?
What's funny about that, because I feel like everyone does this, right? we think we plan for it. We think we're like gonna do this and that. So we were reading, we were watching other parents, even giving advice, even though we weren't parents, which is just a horrible mistake, by the way. But it was a weird transition because we also bought a house.
Yeah.
So we found out in January, we closed on our house in January as well.
Sure.
So we were like fixing the house, trying to get it ready. And we did a huge renovation of the whole thing. But we read, we got the stuff, the bag that you get ready. My wife was doing the thing. You get the ultrasounds, right? It was cool, but it didn't feel real. It was like, oh, it's coming. We're still sleeping 8 hours at that time.
That's funny. Yeah, and one of the things I think my learning about preparation came from realizing that your preparation actually doesn't matter because
100%.
The shit isn't real until it's there. Literally and figuratively shit. But what I mean by that is you can read books, you can learn, parenting strategies and all this, but actually everything goes out the window when you're actually there with your partner and your baby. And at the same time, I think that the parenting is almost even more simplistic. That there's all these theories and books and all that, but when it comes down, when you just break it down to like love and partnership and being there for your family and each other, you're done.
That's all it comes out to. Yeah. And I feel like maybe even preparation is not a good thing, over preparing.
There you go. Exactly.
And I would recommend to that a lot of you guys, all those classes, whatever. I think it's just, honestly, the best preparation you could do is be able to adapt and adopt quickly. Very quickly. Adapt into the situation. And again, being comfortable with not a lot of sleep.
There's a class that I had to take. It was like fathering class. And I'm not sure if you had to take it. But if you remember, they actually showed you all these different types of shit. It was like literally, this is what, it'll be this black discharge first. And it'll be yellow and all these things. And while that gets you in a certain way of preparation or mind of thinking, there's nothing that could have gotten me more prepared than actually just get into the shit, literally. Like, I didn't need to know all that. And so I think I just took that as a learning that all the prep, it's going out the window. Just wait till you do it and you'll learn.
1,000. I can't really agree with that more. Yeah, like after that first diaper change, you're like, oh, that's not as bad. You know what I mean? It's like a lot easier.
Yeah.
But when it gets real, that's when you learn, that's when you adapt, and that's where you see the skills that you have. So I think you can over prepare, and I think it doesn't help as much as you think it could. Just when it happens, be ready, take the time, and use your resources, your friends, podcasts, when you're in it, your parents. Sure. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah, that's good. One of the things about parents is, I don't know if Sophia was born during COVID times. Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, right before it.
Rui was like a COVID baby, and so we were just all on the fly learning, trapped in an apartment by ourselves, and no one could visit.
During COVID, I was let go, and I took the time, and Sophia was like 6 months old or so, to just spend time with her.
Yeah.
And my wife was running her own business at the time, but what I'll say to that is, I gained so much respect for single moms or moms that handle a lot of the stuff. No joke. I was just exhausted by like 7 o'clock. And Sophia was very active. She walked at 9, 10 months. She was speaking at 10, 11 months. She was a very quickly moving baby and was very active. So like we'd go to the park, we'd do stuff. I'd put her to sleep. And 6, 7, I was like just out cold sleeping. Yeah, during that time, I just gained a lot of respect. It's difficult. Yeah. It's hard.
I was talking with our last guest is that he was coming from a blended family, so there's a lot of things about that, but it was this idea that it's hard enough to parent when you are with your partner who you love very dearly. And so doing it on your own, doing it as a blended family or co-parenting, whatever, even more. Because like it's hard enough when you have all the things in play and support system and all that. So
it's difficult, and one of the main things that kids need at that time that I've realized, and even looking back, is attention and time.
Yeah.
And when you're a single parent and you're doing a bunch of stuff, it's very difficult to give that all the time.
Yeah.
And especially at that age, when they're born to when they're 6, 7, which is like a very crucial age.
Yeah.
That's vital.
And we're going to touch a little bit about attention and time with you a little bit later and your personal interests. But we'll jump into your approach to fatherhood. I always ask people this because everyone's a little different. They might come from a coaching background or a Christian background or whatever it might be. So why don't you share with us what you think your approach to fatherhood is?
That's a really good question. I think my approach to fatherhood is to, what I just honestly said, to be there, to be present for my kid, and to unconditionally love them. To let them know that I'm hear from them no matter what. I think that's one of the biggest things that kids, as they become teenagers, as they become adults, right, is that they miss sometimes, is that support, that love, that like, hey, like they got my back. And I want that to be at its core. Like I want my kids to know that I can unconditionally love them, for everything, who they are, no matter what they do.
Yeah, and how do you do that?
So that comes from also being where I'm from, Albanian. I'm there with them all the time. I'm okay with sleeping with them. I will go do what they want. I'll listen to them. I'll spend time with them. I'll sit down. We'll fight. We'll build stuff. Just try to really be there and catch any moments that are vital for them, where they are crying or aren't happy about something, and see what's up. Now, I do want to say I'm not perfect, and no one really is perfect.
Yeah,
I've caught myself being on my phone too much when they're wanting something.
Yeah,
and because of that, like I've closed a lot of the social media apps. It's not perfect. I just know like that's the one thing I want to be. I want to be present and loving by just being there for them, making sure I catch single moments. Sometimes they can come as they're just crying or they're annoying, but really it's really something a lot deeper.
Yeah.
And when you are present, you can really catch that.
Yeah.
And loving, I hug them, I kiss them like 24/7 because that's probably an Albanian thing.
Yeah.
My mom still kisses me to the day, which is nuts, but it's just how we grew up. My aunt kisses me when I go to Albania. And Albanians are a lot like that Mediterranean, Italian culture. You come 4 or 5 times, hugs. And that they get that, the same thing from me, from my mom, my wife, from everyone. So
yeah, that's
awesome.
awesome.
That's there as well.
Yeah, I feel that with my mom too, and I think love is at the core of it. There's a saying where somebody would say, "Oh, he didn't get hugged enough," or "She didn't get hugged enough."
Yeah.
And I would always say, as a kid, I got hugged too much.
Yeah,
right?
Same.
And that's why, because of that, my parents, my mom particularly, showed me how to love. And with my daughter now, I hear of stories where someone would say, yeah, my dad never said he was proud of me, or I never heard my father say he loved me. And to me, that's like the worst case scenario, right? And how I avoid that is that I make sure that by not only doing the things that you do, you're showing your son and daughter, but you're actually saying it. You're telling them. So I tell my daughter, I say, I love you, and there is nothing that you can ever do that'll make me change that or make me love you less.
Love that.
And so what I did is, I say it all the time. Kids like repetition. And so I'll say, hey, Rui, does daddy love you? She says, yeah, daddy loves me so much. And I go, will he ever stop? She's no. And I go, what if you do something really bad? Yeah. She goes, never. And I'm like, that's right. And the fact that she can recite that and knows that, then to me, I'm like, okay, she knows that, and it'll never be a question in the future.
I love that you said that, because I think that's, me knowing you as one of your good friends, it shows in how you carry yourself and who you are.
Yeah.
And I really believe that getting that type of unconditional affection and love from your parents, from both sides, especially dads, because dads traditionally have been that colder piece, right? The mom is the nurturing, right? Shows in how you carry yourself, high self-esteem, confidence, right? Who you think, like, you feel supported, right? I tell people, like, I can be at my worst, even if my parents don't take care of me. I have my cousins, my aunt, my uncle who live here. Like, that unconditional love goes beyond the community.
Yeah.
And I feel it, and it makes me feel good about myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it has to come from the creators, which I call parents.
Yeah.
The creators first, and then obviously to the extended family. So I think it's vital. I think it's vital.
Yeah. And you mentioned already about how your mom still kisses you to this day, whenever she sees you. I think that's great, but but it's amazing. But how does that translate to how you parent? You guys have built such a great community of love, especially when I go to your family parties or whatever. It's just like everyone's family, it seems like.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know whether it's true or not, if they're actually cousins or not.
There's like a lot of cousins.
And tell me about how this everyday showing of love kind of translates to parenting for you.
I think it's, if I were to say, what are some of the characteristics of being Albanian? I think it's like family is key. And that type of love, I think it just goes generation by generation. Because really, like, how you're raised is what you're going to do. I've figured that out now. I thought I was going to be a lot different. Maybe we have little differences, but at its core, you follow a lot of what your parents did. You know what I mean? We do. I do want to create that community. I think I was watching like this HBO documentary, I forget, but one of the main things they said is loneliness is on the rise here because people are just more alone and alone. I don't want that. I don't want my kids to have that.
Yeah.
I want them to be surrounded by cousins, friends, grandparents, uncles, aunts, whatever, right? All that stuff. And the way we do it is we're affectionate. We're just, that's how we are.
That's
You know
how
what I mean?
you show it.
That's how we are. We're affectionate. We're transparent. I remember my grandma, bless her heart, when we go to Albania, my sister was like 17, 18. Oh, Dorella, you've gained some weight, but like in Albanian. And she's like, why is she? I was like, that's a good thing where they come from. You know what I mean?
That's the same in the Philippines. It's like a compliment to say you gain weight. It's like, you have food?
You're eating
You're
well?
eating?
Yeah, we like that. Like, yeah, here, let me kiss you. You know what I mean? That's
sure.
how they'd say, oh, you look so healthy.
I had to train them where my wife isn't Filipino. And I was like, don't ever say that she looks like she gained weight. Don't ever. They're like, oh, okay. It's like, I get it that it's a good thing from where you guys come from. Just don't ever say that.
But yeah, man, because at a core in Albanian families over here,
Sure.
sometimes at a fault, we even overspoil our kids, right?
Sure.
But in general, like that's like it.
Yeah.
Like your family, your kids are like everything. Your grandkids. My mom tells me like her dad, my grandpa, who I love, he's a hero of mine, and he would always say, "Wait till you become a grandparent, how much you love your grandkids." And it's just, I've never loved anything as much as I love these guys. I love you, but like these little things, I love them so much.
Yeah. They're just like out of my way.
Dude, yeah. Bring them over.
Yeah.
Like I'm very fortunate. Like my parents, my in-laws are amazing as well. Like when we travel, when we go to, my wife's Albanian, but she grew up in Boston. They don't even complain once.
Yeah.
Oh no, bring them over. Oh, we'll take it. Oh, you know what? Do you guys like? It's always like, we got this.
More the merrier.
Please.
And
it's a huge
not
help.
everyone's like that. Not everyone's
I notice because a lot of family, like I said, the family structure in the U.S., unfortunately, is slowly breaking down. You know what I mean? It's a lot of factors. I think it's distance is one of them, right?
Sure.
Because we're very spread out.
Yeah.
I think
Tell us more.
You're always busy.
Yeah.
You're always busy, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's working, has got their thing. It's becoming tougher to retire. Now everyone's well off. So grandparents are working at a later time, right?
Yeah.
And there's many other different factors I don't want to touch on, but we're lucky to have their support. And they're like, always, please, we'll go get drinks with you or do something, like, just bring them over. Just don't even worry.
Oh,
and it's huge. And the kids get the same unconditional love that we give. So it just continues that.
I wanted to ask you about the unconditional love, because I mentioned how I try to speak to my daughter and how to let her know how we love her. But there's also a fine line between coddling and being too soft, because sometimes I feel like my daughter's just going to run over me. And so I would love to hear your perspective on that, because you've mentioned that before too, with kids in America, in your perspective, being coddled a little bit too much. And I know that when I'm parenting at times, I'm like, this is great now. This might not be the best long term. But
yeah. We're like, I think about that stuff too. And who knows? I don't know if we're getting it right or wrong, to be fully honest with you. I do think a lot about that.
Yeah.
Because today's kids have more things, but sometimes they don't have more time. And I think I've never loved someone as much as I love my kids. Like when Sofia was born, I just loved her so much. You know what I mean? But I'm also here because of that love, but also because my mom was a little stronger than my dad. Like they didn't just give me stuff.
Sure.
So I think one thing I'm not good at it. I'm like, my wife and I, we're both trying. We don't always get it right. We're trying to have our kids like earn the things that they have. And we're getting away from a lot of, I used to buy like a lot of Jordans and stuff like that for the kids. And that's great. It's cool for a certain, but they're going to wear it for 2-3 times. And it's not going to, I'd rather have them have an experience or something like different.
Yeah.
So we try to do like chores with Sofia but at times like she does run over me, man. I thought that's one thing when you asked earlier what you thought about, when you were prepping, I thought I was gonna be like this disciplinary parent. Yeah. They were gonna sleep and do this and that. Dude, she just runs all over me, and so does he.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Why am I so weak? You know what I mean?
Let's wait for this sound.
And it's a tough balance.
I think it is a tough balance, because my daughter has grown up with far more resources and things and stuff that I ever grew up in. And I'd like to think that sometimes I'm doing what I do for that. Or if I can make her life better, easier, less stressful, why wouldn't I? But also at the same time, you want them to struggle just a little bit so that they can form those adversities, go through those adversities just like you did, right? But at the same time, like, if I can protect them from having to do that from what I did, maybe that's better. I don't know.
That just gets in so much bigger things.
Yeah.
I think that's like a lot where society is where it's at. Like, we're forgetting to give them the tools to survive in the world. That's the way we're forgetting. It's tougher for us to be cognizant and to be aware of it, but you can also engineer struggle. It's almost like you got to
That's a good line. You can't
take it in.
engineer-
You can't. I'll explain it this way. When we're doing the cry it out, I know we're going to sleeping.
Yeah.
I couldn't handle it.
Cry
It
it
was
out,
tough.
no.
I thought, again, I was a big advocate. I was giving people advice. You gotta let them cry before I had Sophia.
Yeah, you were a
gotta-
big tough guy at
You
first.
just gotta let them cry. They'll be fine. And then when it happened, I was like, my wife, I was like, dude, I'm gonna.
I
she
gotta
was
go
like,
get her.
Baba, and I was like, I'm coming. But
I'll be right there.
Hold on. And my wife's, I'm gonna kill you. I'm like, God, just stop. But I remember one of the things that helped me was the camera. I could watch them. I was like, okay, they're okay.
Yeah.
So if they're going to struggle, as long as you're there and you're like, okay, like they're here. It's what's the worst thing? Like I'm here, and just maybe watch them or whatever.
Yeah.
But they have to feel it.
Sure.
They have to feel it. My parents are here where they are today is because they struggled a lot. And my in-laws too. My father-in-law, he's done a lot, and he had really hardship. And the guy's amazing. And it's like, they struggled, man. Now,
Yeah.
I don't advocate that type of struggle, but knowing how to earn something is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And having work ethic is very important.
Yeah.
But I also think that's not just now. I think that's going to be
Yeah.
our job for the next
Yeah.
15 years till they go to high school and college.
So let me ask you this. How do you teach a 4-year-old how to earn something? Give us an
Yeah.
example of how you do that, because it all makes sense, but let's put it in action right now.
I don't do it all the time.
Yeah.
So I just want to be clear with that. And not everyone does it all the time, right?
I think a tenet of the show, and
Yeah.
I need to write these
Yeah.
tenets of the show,
Yeah.
but it's that we don't know what the hell we're talking about.
Yes.
Like, and I didn't want to go on this podcast and say everything that I say is right or my perspective
No.
is right at all. And so I wanted to make a tenet where it's, we don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You're just sharing what your perspective is, and I'm just sharing mine. That's what
That's
works
it.
for me.
Yeah.
And I would love to know what works for you.
Yeah. So like with that, at this time, like it's not a lot, but like chores. Like we have a lot of toys and stuff.
Yeah.
We have it in the living room, and like the rebel without a cause,
Yeah.
Kroi, he just makes a mess.
Yeah.
So with him, it's a little tougher. But I've gotten him a couple times to put toys, but it's tougher, and it's maybe we're doing it 20-30% of the time. But I'm trying to introduce it. With Sophia, though, I'm like, hey, if you put all the toys away together, like all together, put them away, maybe you can have your little Bluey show a little bit, or I'll give you 15 minutes of iPad to play your little game or whatever, right? And she'll do it. Sometimes she fights it. She's like, I don't want to do this. I'm like, all right, cool. So I turn it off. And then she's okay, but like she's angry. She's like, I'll do it, but that's cool, yeah, whatever. Like, it sucks sometimes. Like, I don't want to be mad at me, but she's got to go through that.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think, maybe we'll have a check-in show in 3-4 years or something like that, that I'll get, or we, because again, this is a we, right? Always, we'll get tougher. My wife is also like on that, like chores or doing or things like that. We'll get, it's like when we fold the clothes, sometimes Sophia will help with folding on the clothes. Nothing crazy, but she'll help with it.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that we do now, right?
We have the same thing with the toys, but my wife, to some degree, it builds a bit of a competitive nature with Rui, where she'll be like, I bet I can pick up the toys faster than you. And my daughter will be like, no, I can't. Whoa. I'm like, dang, good work. You did it.
Competition is great, man.
And so she's building a little bit of that competitive muscle, but we're still getting stuff done.
It's tough. It's tough, Kev. I don't know if we'll get it right. The thing is, we just got to be, like I said, be present and make sure that we give them the tools to survive. I just keep saying that. The tools are more important than the material things.
There you go. We're going to shift to the next topic.
Let's do it.
And this is about balance. I talk to dads about how they balance personal, career, and responsibilities of being a dad. So obviously, everybody has work and professional stuff.
Yeah.
They have their own personal stuff, whether it might be coaching a high school team, but you have responsibilities as a dad. And why don't you tell us about how you balance all that? Or maybe you're having a struggle with that, and you could talk about your own experience. Yeah,
that's a really good question, because I don't know if anyone's got that. I remember I heard this one guy one time, this CRO or a board member or whatever, and he was like, oh yeah, like we have perfect balance. Like two weeks out of the year, we go on this Hawaiian vacation, and it's about 2 weeks, dude. Like, you want me to spend 2 weeks with my kid and that's it? Like the rest of the time you come home at 7, 8 and like you see him barely. So bringing it back to that now, I've personally I've had a really hard time, and a really hard time. I've had a hard time. It's not a really hard time because it's like we're we're still very fortunate, to be honest. Like I
Yeah.
feel, I'm very grateful. I'm very fortunate and things like that. But it's been a transition. It's been a transition just going from that, you're a couple, you guys are doing your thing, you got your little routine, your rhythm, to then everything turns upside down when you have that kid. Like I said, we plan for it, but you don't know what the hell. And then you have the second one, and then you're like, whoa, okay, baby, you got this, I got that, okay, you got this. And the thing is, like working out, I think that's important, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very inconsistent with it.
Yeah.
But I think I'm at my best when I do get that stuff out of the way, right?
Yeah, sure.
My wife she's really found a good niche. She's a year and a half. She's been doing this F45 classes and really just killing it and you know, feels better and all that stuff and has a routine. For me, like, it's been tougher because like creating, it's almost like you have to reinvent yourself.
Sure.
You know, who am I now?
Find yourself now.
Who am I now at like late 30s, early 40s with 2 kids versus who I was before kids?
Yeah.
I think I had done a good job of that. I had read like these books and had really figured out like what I wanted and whatever. But who am I now?
Yeah.
I am different.
Yeah.
I'm involved. I got kids. So who am I now? So it's been tougher. It's been tough.
It's important because I think that a lot of times we focus on being a dad here, obviously, the namesake. But there's an element of finding yourself and making sure that you are taking care and loving yourself so that you can then take care and be your best self for your family.
That's like you hit it on the spot. If you're not that, you're not that best dad for them.
Yeah. And that actually that's actually like true in like life and relationships. You can even be like a not dad and you're just like in a relationship. If you don't love yourself and are your best self, then you can't be a good boyfriend or girlfriend, right?
I think it leads into work. Like last year, I'm in sales. I've been in sales for 10 years. My worst year ever. I'm usually a 100+% performer, you know, whatever. My worst year ever, and I wasn't present.
Yeah.
I've got a better routine now, and I'm definitely, you know, I'm more clear on my goals because I think like you have to reset goals when you're reinventing yourself, right? And you have to know where to spend your time and prioritize your time, and know what you want in this next phase of you, of dad, or whatever.
Yeah.
So then you are present and loving,
There you go.
and we're there with your kid.
Yeah.
So it's tough,
but you
got to ask those questions, I think.
Yeah, and so if you can boil it down to 2 things of how you got to that point and how you got there, what would it be?
I like how I got to the realization of like where I'm at, like this.
So somebody going through the same thing.
I think struggling, man.
Yeah.
I really believe it, dude. I think
You're saying struggle through it.
I think just like struggle will come. Like I think failure is okay. Struggle is okay. I think one thing that kids, like how anxiety is really high in the US, right? And that's like that's why people like our heart disease and all that stuff that they're struggling with. I think it's because we're like perfectionists. We think it's supposed to go this way and it doesn't, you know? So accept struggle. Oh shit, you're struggling. Oh, I feel, okay, what can you do? Not struggle through, but then seek out support. Your wife, your friends, your family. Read, try something different. You know what I mean? Go through that. That's the beauty of, even I'll tell you this, like, well, how I got into sales real quick is that I struggled in my previous job.
Sure.
I was in restaurant, I got in logistics. I hated it. I hated the 9 to 5. I hated the hierarchical stuff. I freaking hate it. I quit. I read this book. I went back to the restaurant business. And reading that book just pointed me in the right direction. I need to be in sales. I need to be with people, right? I got into, just flew.
Yeah.
But if I didn't struggle, I don't know if I would have gotten there.
Yeah.
I would have been mediocre at that spot and just slowly climbing the ladder. You know what I mean?
I like
So embrace that struggle. Like it's tough.
Yeah. That's how you found the balance.
That's it. And I think, but I have that balance because I have great support.
There you go.
So it's not always about me. I think I have really good support and I feel like I can open up to the people that are around me, which is really important.
So your wife is awesome.
She's amazing.
Yeah. Shout out to Dan's wife.
She's amazing. I can open up to her about anything. She's very supportive. Like she has this great feel. Like whenever there is the tough time or whatever, she just makes me feel like, dude, like everything's fine. Like you got this.
One thing that usually comes out with dads on this podcast is usually their partner. So I think that is a tip number 1, which is find the best partner to go through it with.
By far.
And that's really like how it gets done.
That's the key. I think it starts with that.
Yeah.
Because look, Yola and I have gone through great times together. Like we've grown, the way we found each other, all that stuff. But I feel like even because as a dad, you always carry that weight, right? You got to support. You got to be like that strong, supportive.
Maybe you don't. Break it down.
But no, maybe you don't. But my point is like when I have her, she's like that for me.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
And when you feel that you have that type of person has your back, you feel like you can do everything. And you feel like you can get out of any hole or any struggle or anything else and open up and talk through things and stuff like that. I think that's key. I think that's number one.
Me and my wife have this thing called, it's a mantra for our family. It started as just us, and it was called us always. I don't know if I ever told you this.
You never told me that.
But we always say it. We say it to each other, us always. And the idea around us always was that it's always about us all the time. It's us always. And what that boils down to is that we're all we got and we're all we need. The world can be burning down or something, COVID. We're going through COVID, but it's okay because we have each other. So it's us always. And now that we have Rui, it's like all of us always. And we prioritize each other and our family first. Yeah. And we take care of the home, and then we're going to be good outside in the world. Us always.
That's a good mantra. That's a really good mantra. I love that. We don't have a mantra like that.
Yeah, you can make one.
Yeah, we might.
I'll catch up with you later on.
We might, but we're always like the yin and the yang to each other. We balance each other really well. She's more analytical. I'm more emotional. I'm more like just this resourceful, all that stuff.
Sure.
But we balance each other really well, and we both, our kids are everything to us.
Yeah, and you guys are both working parents.
Correct.
Sometimes that isn't the case. Sometimes someone stays home. And tell me how being both working parents, that affects your parenting, or any challenges or tips to people who are both working parents.
During COVID, I told you I got laid off and took some time off. I took 7-8 months off. So at that time, she was only working parent. But it is difficult. And I think it's difficult. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I do want to speak for the people that I'm around, that I know or whatever. It's not an easy thing because I don't know, the world demands more of you. Work is like, what are we, the most productive generation out there? So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours, how many hours you work in the day, that grabs your attention and it stays here. So to clear that out, or to make sure that, again, going to that theme of presence and loving, is tough sometimes.
Yeah.
Or if you do have that routine where you like working out and you're a parent, or coaching, who's going to carry the responsibility? It is tougher. We even talked about should one of us like take time off and just make sure that the kids are at a certain level. We have a lot more help now that Sofia has daycare, but it is tough. The best way to do it is we try to like get off work and try to get out of the house, our spot, U Village, or we'll go to the park, or just go do stuff, or like Sky Zone. Just try to get out of the house.
Yeah.
Just
have
to get
together
yourself,
time too.
Together time. We, again, thank God to her parents and my parents. Like we'll go on dates, we'll go get drinks, we'll do events. Like we've been very lucky to do a lot of that stuff. We go to Albania every summer, right? Yeah. So that's been great. It just takes the monotony off and just the routine, right?
Yeah, I was talking to someone about this earlier, where in America and in our everyday life, we have kids, and you wake up and you get ready for work, see them for a couple hours, if you're lucky, and then they go off to preschool or daycare or whatever it is. You work until maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah.
If you go to the gym, you're not coming home maybe 6:30, 7.
Yep.
And by the time 7, 8, you're prepping for bedtime, right? So if you think about that from a Monday through Friday standpoint, it's really only maybe 6 or 7, 8 hours during the week.
Yeah.
So how is it that we are going to be present and we want to, be part of their lives, but there's so little time? Why is that the norm? That's like normal.
Because we value work here more.
Yeah. And that it's such a balance.
We value the professions.
You got to make money, and you have to have a roof over your head. But at the same time, there's nothing more important than raising your child. So how do you do that? I was talking to one dad, and he was like saying, yeah, we're enrolling so-and-so into a daycare. It's crazy. They have great hours. You can drop 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. He was speaking about it very like positively, and sure, because it can be flexible, and that's great. But in my head, I was like, yeah, but then when are you hanging out with your kid? Like, who's hanging out with this 3-year-old? And don't you want to be? And obviously, everybody's situations are different, and different things call for different setups. But it's just weird how like we should be more involved in their lives, and
especially so
Early on.
Yeah, especially early on. I watched this documentary that I recommend for all of you guys. It's called This Happy Life on PBS. But he talks about how important unconditional love is from when you're born to 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Like, it's vital. They do like tests with adopted kids or whatever, and it's vital.
Yeah. But when your kids are born to 6,
Yeah.
born 0 to 6, those are usually the years that career-wise you're grinding or like trying to work your hardest.
That's the hard part.
That's so tough.
The thing is, so I grew up in a 1-bedroom apartment. And my sister was there too. So we slept in the living room, and my parents had their room and the little kitchen. That was it. And we didn't even have people over. I'm not advocating for that or anything like that. But we had together time. Like, it was together. And we had community, and we had a lot of time. And one thing that maybe you don't need that BMW or whatever. Maybe if you're doing well, you could do whatever. But if, let's say, you're making a certain level, prioritize the things that actually matter to you. One thing that it's statistically in the last 20 or 30 years here, I bring this stat all the time, but houses are getting bigger in the U.S., but families are getting smaller. Like, it's okay if your kid doesn't have their own room or you have 3 kids. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay if they don't have, like I said, the Jordans. Like, that's not the end all be all.
Yeah.
What I want to give my kids is more than like give them money and wealth, is give them the tools, man. I want them to reach their full potential and be confident and sure of themselves when they head towards that road. Because it's going to be a difficult road. Like you and I, it was a difficult road. You went to college, you paid for yourself, I paid for myself. My parents worked 2 jobs here. Like, it's difficult. But that's what makes it rewarding, because it's on me. I didn't rely on nothing.
Yeah.
And I want them, I don't want to say that, but I want them to go through that journey strong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's tough, man. I think our priorities are changing. And then we have this idea that, sorry that I'm rambling, but I'm very passionate about this. They're like, oh, I'm going to work really hard and then retire. Okay, so you're going to travel at 60 years old where you're barely walking?
Yeah.
When your kids are like 19 and you can't really do anything?
I know.
Why don't you do it now? Why don't you prioritize that now? What's wrong with that? And why only 2 weeks?
My daughter loves me so much right now. Why am I not taking advantage
Why am I,
of it?
Or like, why don't we do a quick weekend trip or whatever? Those are the things that stick with me. You know what I mean?
And one thing that I've noticed too is kids also love experiences where they just remember them. It doesn't have to be something expensive, right? So you don't have to stay in the Ritz-Carlton hotel. Like, you can literally stay in a Best Western down the street, and my daughter's going to think it's the coolest thing ever, and we're on this like crazy journey. I mentioned that because it's more than the things, but it's more of that experience. But also, I'm totally understanding that not everybody has resources to go to the beach all the time or go on this lavish vacation, but it's actually just these small things that, for me and my daughter, we like ritualize. Like, we're going to, here's a tip. My daughter would like to go to the aquarium. The aquarium's like $40.
Yeah.
What we would do is we would actually say, we're going to go to the small aquarium, and we would go to Petco.
Let's go.
We would literally go to Petco, we would walk down, and we would just check out the fish. They have the saltwater fish that are a little bit more bright. And then you have the little creatures and the hamsters. And that zoo was the coolest one ever. Literally, I tell my wife, I'm like, dude, it's free. They had parking. We'd have to go all the way downtown. And so that was one of our tips, is we would go to Petco or the zoo or the aquarium there. But what I was trying to get at is that was so magical for her, and it cost nothing. And we were just building relationships through these experiences with the Petco fish.
So my parents would go to Ballard Locks.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Salmon.
I remember like today, or we'd take people, we'd go that, or like when we first moved here, the first couple of years. Yeah. It's sad, but like I'm really proud of it because like we had good memories. Going out was McDonald's for us, and they would dress up.
Still great.
And I loved it. And
love that
me
today.
I remember going to that McDonald's is by U Village over there, and that's where we would go. And man, it was awesome. And that's what I'm saying. Like even the toys, like Kroi and Sofia have the best toys. You know what they play sometimes? With a little spoon or like the most random. I'm like, you have so many toys. Why are you playing with that?
This box from Amazon.
Right? Like, please. So, yes, experiences, little things. Kroi loves going outside in the backyard, and we'll just do that. That's like the best thing ever.
Yeah.
So prioritize that. I think that's a big key.
That's good. We're going to touch on our last topic, which is one that is a bit taboo to a lot of people, and it is co-sleeping. And so co-sleeping is when your son or daughter sleeps with you in your bed, or they might leave their bed and come and sleep with you. And my daughter co-sleeps with us. And before that ever happened, I thought that it was always met with a negative response. And I know that your daughter co-slept with you, and even then, when I didn't have mine, I believe that I probably met it with a negative response to you. And I think that when you talk to a lot of parents and you'd be like, yeah, she still sleeps in our bed. That's usually what the line is. You'd be like, oh, he or she still sleeps in our bed. And the response is always, oh, really? Oh, how is that? And I've totally switched my approach on that, where now I actually say, oh, that's awesome. But I'd love to hear your POV on that, because people have differing perspectives on that. So why don't you tell us about how co-sleeping works in your house and what you think?
We didn't start with co-sleeping. We did, and then we're like, we're going to sleep train. My wife, like,
I think we all start out thinking
300, and we thought, that's why I was giving people advice. I was like, look, they shouldn't sleep with my cousins. Like, you should do this.
Yeah.
And, they cry for a little bit. And
See, it was negative at first.
Oh, yeah, because I was like, like, what's up with these people? Like, it's just this and that. But you learn quickly and adapt quickly. I couldn't handle the crying. We did handle it. She actually got good for 4 months, and then we traveled to Boston or somewhere. It's just like the routine. We're not very disciplined, because we'll go hang out with my parents, or my sister will come over, or we'll hang out with cousins or whatever, right? So it's tough to build that routine.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to that documentary, This Happy Life. And he talks about, how important like touch is and feel and like affection for kids early on. Like, they're not going to sleep for you. One of my cousins, he was like, our kid like was sleeping with us, and it's always with his daughter. There's 4 of them in a bed. Yeah. And one day he's like, dude, I'm not sleeping comfortable here, Dad. Like, I want to get out. He was like 5. Yeah. He just got out and slept in his own room. Yeah. So with Sofia, we did it, and then she came back and was crying. We're like, whatever. And then we had Kroi, and he was, good at first, and then he came back. So now I sleep with him. My wife sleeps with Sofia. So we have 2 different beds downstairs, whatever.
I think it always starts out with sleep training, and you want to show them how it should be. Yeah. And then something happens, whether they're scared, they have a dream, or they just want a feeling of safety. And in my perspective, if my daughter doesn't feel safe or needs me to feel safe, why would I kick her out of my room and my bed? Like, it makes 0 sense to me, actually. If you have a differing opinion, I would love to hear it, and that's fine. And there are a lot of opinions about being too soft with our kids or whatever. But if my daughter needs me to fall asleep and she feels scared, one, she's not going to feel that way forever, just like you said. So eventually she'll want to sleep on her own.
Big time.
And the other part is that one day she said, you and Mom get to sleep together. Why don't I get to sleep with you guys? Fair point. That's a fair point. Why do I got to sleep by myself? And just being there for her, and she needs it. And then the other element is that I've already talked about not having enough time with your kid. Yeah. And since my daughter started joining us in our bed, it's just such a joy to be able to wake up next to her, or she rolls up on me, or at night we're going to sleep all together. Obviously I get out and finish the night, but it's just added time that I get with her, and I think it's just so great for that. And before, I told my wife, I would say, if Rui tomorrow said, you know what, Dad, I'm not going to sleep in your room anymore, I might cry. I'd be so sad. Like, great for her for becoming independent and growing out of this phase, but I would literally be so sad.
We have this thing with independence here. In our culture, co-sleeping is normal. We were trying to be, because
in a lot of areas in the world,
I'm Albanian-American. I'm more American than Albanian, because I've been here for 20 some years, since '97, and so we're like, honestly, a lot of the reasons why people do it, and I understand it, is because they're exhausted. They want their time. They want to put their kids to sleep and watch a little TV, veg out, have a little drink.
But you just slip out. You just slip out.
And you can do that. You can do it. You can still have that. I'm with you. But at the same time, like, your kid needs your affection. It's important for them to have your affection early on. Yeah. And I think when my wife sometimes goes to Boston and I'm by myself, I sleep like shit, and I'm sorry for cussing.
No, you can't.
I feel alone. It sucks. I hate it. I was like, how the hell did I do this for so long?
It's the worst.
It's the worst. The house is empty. I hate it. I hate it. Now I know my mom cried when I moved out. I moved out like at 22, 23, whatever I was. She's like, are you leaving? I moved like 5 minutes away from her. It's because the house is empty and all that stuff. So like, you have your kids, enjoy it. Having a blast. Where we're lucky, and I don't know if I speak for everyone, where I'm lucky is that I get that balance because my parents help so much. My in-laws help so much. My sister actually helps, right?
Yeah.
So I'm able to do stuff, travel, go get drinks, whatever. A lot of parents, I think, just don't have it. So they're like, hey, go to sleep. I got to work, grab a drink or whatever.
Yeah.
And they don't
They
have
need
that
that
support.
time.
And the support is vital.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't have those options here.
Sure.
So I get why they're doing it as well and why they, have that routine. I have friends at like 7 o'clock to 7. I'm like, how do they sleep 7 to 7 in their own beds, man?
Yeah. I wouldn't even want that.
I
Honestly.
yeah.
Get in my bed.
Get in there. Let's go. We're cuddling.
Yeah. I can't wait till this episode drops and I'm going to have comments telling me how soft of a dad I am.
Bring it.
No, but I'm open. I'm open to
same.
that perspective. For me, come in my bed. We're
It's all,
sleeping together.
dude, so when you talk to people, there's like more people that do it than you think. I don't know if it's like the cool thing to like train or whatever. It's look, man, I'll be there. I want to train my kids again to have the tools to do well when they go to middle school, high school, college, and all that stuff. That's my main thing. A lot of the stuff that I've noticed with parents, I coach high school soccer, is more about the parents than it is about the kids. I'll say that. And you
Are you
focus
talking about athletics?
everything.
Okay. Yeah.
My kid this, or I do this, or they sleep this. Like a lot of it, it's a lot of it. I don't want to say, I don't know what statistics are, but I hear the notion where more about the parents, the status, or what they're doing rather than like their kid.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think you said your style is, it's like our focus is on them. Love, support, presence on them all the time.
Nice. All right, so we're going to go into these last couple questions. You can answer them
Let's do
however
it.
you want. What's the biggest challenge being a dad?
Sleep was tough. And just balancing everything. But I feel like I'm in a good place now. But I think it's something I had to go through.
Best part and worst part of being a dad?
Best part is how they make me feel, man. Like no one makes me feel like they do. Like it's just whatever stress, whatever I have, like when they smile or they crack a joke, whatever, I'm in heaven. Like I'm fulfilled. Worst part is you don't have the time that you thought you had at times.
Yeah.
But you adapt.
What is the secret to being a great dad?
Ooh. Unconditional love.
Oh, let's go.
You got to love your kids. You got to be there for them. You got to support them. They got to feel it.
And one line of advice about fatherhood.
It's honestly like, this is stepping back. And if I can tell you, I don't necessarily have any advice, but I want you to like not worry. Be yourself. Go through the times. You're going to have to adapt. Like you're going to have to adapt, but you can't prepare for it. But be yourself and just make sure that you're giving them the time and the love that they need. Everything else falls into part, but be yourself and go through it, man. You got to go through it. But I think being yourself is key. There's sometimes where we try to coach sleep or not sleep or train or take them to this place. No, just be yourself. Trust your gut.
Awesome, man. Last portion is called Rise and Dad's Choice.
Okay,
So you're just going to pick this or that.
let's do it.
Should you rather do bath time or school pickup?
I'll pick up. I do bath time though as well.
Morning routine or the bedtime routine?
Bedtime. I'm not good with mornings. I like to try to get a lot of the stuff out in the morning, like workouts or any other stuff, or coffee or stretching, and bedtime is cool.
Deal with a poopy blowout or a meltdown? A meltdown in public. Ooh.
Give me the poopy blowout. I'll clean that thing up quick.
Same.
I'll clean that thing up real
That
quick.
thing's easy.
Yeah.
Attend a kid's birthday party or a school field trip?
Sophia has her first field trip coming up next week. But I love birthday parties because I get to see all the parents as well and the other kids.
You're
Those
such a
are the
social
best.
guy. Yeah. A long car ride or a long flight?
Oh, we've flown a lot. Car ride. Flight scared the shit out of me.
Eat out or cook in?
We love to eat out. It's something I'm trying to work on. But my wife is a really good cook, and cooking in is awesome. Yeah.
And then the last question is one-on-one time with either of your kids or the whole family?
The whole family. I love one-on-one time, don't get me wrong, but the whole family to me is where we go see everything. And it just, I don't know, like we just feed off of each other.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, that's the end of the pod. Thanks for joining the Rise and Dad podcast.
Thanks, brother.
We appreciate having you.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks, everyone. And excited to hear this when it happens. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Thanks, Dan. Yay. That was good.
Go.
What's up, guys? It's Kevin from the Rise and Dad podcast. Thanks so much for watching this episode. We hope that you like, comment, share, subscribe, follow, rate, do all the great things that'll help us keep making content for you. Thanks a lot.